The subject of UAPs, UFOs, aerial phenomena, extraterrestrials has been coming up quite a bit over the past couple of years, but it seems to be getting crazier and crazier. And so there's a lot to discuss in this area. Tucker Carlson recently had an interview with Catherine Austin Fitts, who said that there's deep underground military bases the U.S. government is in building, perhaps because of some potential catastrophic event. Maybe it's a magnetic pole shift. There was a major cell outage across Spain. Weeks after the power went out, Puerto Rico lost power, fears of solar storms. But at the same time, we're discussing all of these strange aerial phenomena. We have talks of drones. We have hearings in Congress about alien, let's call them non-human entities. And let's not forget when Alex Jones claimed there were interdimensional beings that were communicating with powerful elites. All of it sounds pretty crazy, but it's so much fun to talk about. So we're going to. And we are a little bit more serious on it. We've got some congressional hearings that have happened and some claims that we'll discuss, not to mention the drone sightings across New Jersey and these Tic Tacs as well as other objects, some of which are still unexplained. We'll get into all that on today's Culture War. I'm your host, Tim Poole. We got a great panel of guests that are here with us. Sir, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Tony Merkel, host of the Confessionals podcast. I make podcast episodes and documentaries.
About aliens?
A lot of things. I interview people on their experiences with supernatural phenomenon.
Ooh.
Been doing it for about 8 years, and yeah.
We had a supernatural phenomenon here.
What's that?
I can't say.
Oh, okay.
I can't, but I want to. I don't know how to stress this. That we had a paranormal phenomenon happen here at the studio. This is a new building. It was just built, so it's not a haunted thing. It was just built. And for privacy reasons, we can't discuss what happened and who was affected by it, but it happened twice.
Really?
And everybody freaked out.
Same thing happened twice?
Same thing happened twice. It's paranormal, and everybody freaked out. Wow. And everybody knows, but again, I wish I could go into details, but these are people's private experiences, so I can't really say anything other than I have no explanation for what happened. It's insane, and it made us all question our reality.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I could speak on it publicly, but I can't because it's people's private lives, like very serious stuff. But thank you for joining us. Should be fun. We have the rep is back.
Yep. Good to be back. Thank you.
Who are you? What do you do?
I'm Eric Burlison. I'm the congressman from Southwest Missouri. We call it God's country. And I'm on the transportation infrastructure. I'm also on oversight, and my background is finance and computer software. So. But yet, whatever, I work on a lot of policies, including Second Amendment bills, bills to deregulate, mostly business-related issues. But yet, I'm always drawn into conversations about UAPs because I'm on the oversight disclosure task force for investigating JFK, the disclosure of JFK assassination files, the MLK assassination, RFK. As well as the UAP topic. And so
it was aliens who killed JFK.
So, yeah, now I'm going to add to that list. I'm going to make a request to our chair that we we follow up on this allegation that there are deep underground military bases.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there are. The question is how many, because we do know about, say, like Mount Weather and stuff like that, or the limestone cavern of government retirements that we learned about. But thank you for joining us. Should be fun. We got Shane hanging out as well.
What's up, Tony? It's a pleasure to be here with you. I've done the Confessionals. It's a great show, and you've been on some great hearings that I've been watching, and I'm really excited to talk about this today. I'm Shane Cashman, the host of Inverted World Live on YouTube and Rumble on Sundays at 6 o'clock, but going daily, pretty soon.
Hopefully, I think in like a week or so, we'll begin it.
Yeah.
Nightly. All right, everybody. Before we get started, we got a great sponsor. It's AMAC. Super cool to have AMAC sponsoring the show today. That's amac.us/Timcast. My friends, let's be honest, things are getting weird. Not just this show, but the media is gaslighting you. The government's overspending like crazy. And if you question it, you're labeled a threat. But if you're over 50 and still believe in common sense, you're not alone. Right now, Trump is back in office and actually doing something. He's fixing bad trade deals, exposing government waste. He's pushing back on cultural decay, but he can't fix everything without people like you stepping up. That's why AMAC matters. AMAC is the non-woke alternative for Americans over 50. They stand for individual liberty, fiscal responsibility, and actual freedom, not the illusion of it. It's just $16 a year. Wow. You get a subscription to the AMAC magazine, access to real money-saving discounts, and you support a network that's pushing back against the insanity. So join now at amac.us/Timcast. Again, that's amac.us/Timcast. You don't have to sit in the sidelines, be part of the solution. Again, really do appreciate the sponsorship. But let's get into the craziness today, I suppose. So I did make a comment. People are losing it over the, Tim, what are you talking about? You had some kind of experience at the studio. I can say one thing. Poltergeist experience. Twice. And everybody was like jaws hanging on the floor, freaked out by what happened. And I would just say, I don't know how. Maybe internet, like, Alex Jones was speaking a while ago about interdimensional beings on Joe Rogan years and years ago. Everybody's got a different way to describe some type of experience with something that defies our understanding of physics. How could objects move on their own, or doors open by the windows slide up, the lights turn on and off, or, weird things. For some of these, it's actually not a miracle. Like if a light turned on with no power, it's like, I think you can do that with powerful blasts of EMF. Electromagnetic waves can, make something light up. But there are some that you can't explain, and we've experienced them. And so this makes you certainly question your reality. Now, again, like Alex Jones says, interdimensional beings. Some people do DMT and they say like machine elves. Something is beyond the veil interacting with the fabric of our reality. Some say angels and demons. I don't know. All I can say is not to kick the conversation off in this direction necessarily, but, we had our experience here and it was very strange. So I don't know where else you guys want to begin, though, in talking about these maybe non-human entities.
Well, first, to comment on what you just said, I think just scientifically based, I think that the fact that we have quantum entanglement, that we've proven that quantum entanglement exists in and of itself, even from just a pure scientific perspective, is an admission that we live. I believe that our existence is the surface of a larger existence, if that makes sense. Like we're living on a one dimension of a more complicated existence or creation.
Yeah.
And so I think that is patently, demonstrably proven through things like quantum entanglement. And so the question is, what is that? What exists in that, in the larger
existence? What is that, right?
Right.
Well, to throw it to, what Alex Jones was saying, what was he saying? Fifth dimensional beings? Is that what he described them as?
I think so, yeah.
There's this fun documentary that went viral 20 years ago called What the Bleep Do We Know? Have you ever seen it?
No.
You may have. And it is kind of like new age hippy dippy nonsense or whatever, but it is pretty good. They talk about it's this weird guy trying to explain the universe, through analogy and stuff. And he says, imagine there's a two-dimensional existence, meaning they like Pac-Man.
Yeah.
When you look down on them, they have no concept of up or down. It doesn't exist. They can't perceive it. So if you have this two-dimensional space and there's this little Pac-Man moving around left and right, if you were to speak to him, down at him, he would feel your voice from the center of his being emanating outward. And that's a divine experience, which is fascinating because I've met people who've had those experiences and said they felt a voice come from within them and tell them things. And then
I've had that experience.
A booming voice from within your body. It could perhaps just be a higher dimensional being speaking, and the vibrations come from seemingly within you, but it's coming from a different direction we can't perceive.
Can we hear about it?
Yeah, it's a weird story. I was driving to a donor meeting and was in my car. And suddenly I had like this weird sensation. It was almost like something wafted air really quickly past me while I was in a vehicle. And I heard distinctly, it wasn't like a voice, like a human voice, but it was clear. Like I recognized it as a message that said, say yes. So I go into this donor meeting and, I'm supposed to ask for a contribution. We end up talking about stuff. And the individual said, he's like, you know more about my topic than a lot of the people that I work with in the finance industry. And he said, I came here to write you a check, but I'd rather just see if you want to be a partner, honestly, after our conversation. And I just, at that moment, it was like, holy cow.
Say yes.
I'm supposed to be the one saying yes. I mean, normally you go and I was supposed to ask him for money. He's supposed to say yes instead. And so I felt like that was a radical move, like, career change. But that's my personal experience.
Yeah. And I've never heard an audible voice myself, but speaking of new buildings, when we moved to Tennessee, we had a brand new house, and we've had weird things happening in that brand new house. And some people say it's because of what I do, but it never happens around me. It's always my family. So I think one of the most strong stories that I have on that would be my wife was putting my 2-year-old, I think at the time, down for a nap, and she was laying in the bed with her, helping her go to sleep, middle afternoon. My son, who I think was about 5 at the time, he's in the living room watching cartoons or something. While my wife is laying there, she hears a voice behind her in a dimly lit room say, "Mommy." And she rolls over, and there's nobody there. She thought it was my son at first, but she's like, oh, maybe she heard him through the door or something. So she gets my daughter down for a nap, and she walks out, and my son comes running over to her. Our living room is right off a little hallway that has the bedrooms. So where he was sitting, he could literally see my daughter's bedroom door. He runs over to my wife, and he says, "Mommy, something really scary happened while you were in there." And she said, "What?" And she said he said, "Somebody from the hallway, right where they were at, said my name." And so at the same time that she heard "Mommy," he heard his name whispered to him. And it's like, I've never heard a vocalization like that, but it surely has happened in my own home. So
What if ghost phenomenon and things like this, it's actually just time as we know it? Sometimes, if you view it as a dimensional plane, higher dimensions sometimes fold past each other. And so I'm imagining this scenario where if there's like this point where the fabric of reality just like lightly touches it and moves and passes through, there's a dude, and so this is why hauntings happen in old houses, because they were there long enough for this interaction to have occurred. So let's say there's a house, it's 1800, and there's like this guy, and he's standing in the hallway going upstairs, and all of a sudden he sees this man wearing strange clothes he can't explain, and they both look at each other, and then the man screams, "Ah! Ah!" And then he goes and tells everybody, "This place is haunted. I saw a demon or something." Then everyone writes down how the house is haunted. Then 200 years later, a guy shows up. He's going through the hallway of the haunted house, and he turns and he sees a man from the 1800s standing right before him who screams, and they says, "It's true." And really what happened is they both briefly had the timelines flash past each other.
You're kind of describing what you were talking about with like just the physics. What do we not know about time and how that operates? I mean, what you're describing, and then taking the story that I just shared, it really could be something where we've been there for 3 years. At some point, I'm sure myself or my wife come around and go, "Hey Ben, come here," because my daughter's sleeping. And the same thing, I know for a fact, my son goes in the room, sneaks up on mom and goes, "Mommy," trying to be quiet. So that's an interesting theory for sure.
Echo through time, but then yours would be different. Because what was your interpretation? Was it like divine or?
I felt like it was divine.
Yeah,
it was providential. Yeah,
because like other people would say not yours because it doesn't sound demonic. But other people hear it, like the C.S. Lewis book "Screwtape Letters" is about demons whispering in people's ears, and I believe that happens.
Yeah,
a lot in DC.
But what if it's scarier than that? And what if these are aliens?
That's also possible.
What if because I think again, Alex Jones is talking about interdimensional beings that are sending guidance to elites, telling them what to do. What if aliens, as people believe them to be, are actually interdimensional, and that explains how they're able to travel vast different. It explains what we can't see.
Yeah,
we don't see other civilizations. It explains how we're like, how do you travel a billion light years? You don't. It's through space-time or whatever, through dimensions. And what if these are not necessarily smarter, but more advanced entities that are controlling the flow of our existence for their own ends?
Yeah, an interdimensional thing was like a meme with Alex Jones, but then your colleague, Rep Luna, I think a year or two ago, literally came out and said, I don't know if she believed in it or she had proof that there were interdimensional beings.
She definitely stated it.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa.
So I was in the very first hearing, the witness, the big whistleblower, David Grush, in his report that he gave to us, and I read it beforehand, and that struck me the most out of his report. Was that he said one of the theories is that what we're experiencing is aliens are interdimensional. And in the hearing I had 5 minutes, I asked him that question, can he drill into that? And it was interesting. It was really an interesting topic. And it does, because my contention was, look, I understand that there's the probability of life being somewhere in this universe that's so vast. But I also think the probability goes the other way too. The universe is so vast. What are the odds, given traditional space-time travel, knowing that, under Einstein's theory, nothing really can exceed the speed of light through conventional space-time? What are the odds that other life that exists somewhere in the vast universe, of all the places that it could go, it chooses to come here, third rock from the sun, right? Like, that to me is also improbable. That's why David Grush said, the interdimensional aspect of this changes all of that.
Well, you see, here's the sad reality: is there's thousands of different intelligent species. They exist all over the universe, interdimensionally and otherwise. They're all aware of the existence of God and each other, except us, because we're reality TV for them. They're just entertained by it. That's why they care about.
We're a Netflix series.
Exactly. They're like, let's just watch these people. We don't. Everybody knows everything, so it's boring.
Do you think we have remains of these? Like, when they say non-human entities or biologics, do you think we have in our possession?
I definitely think there was a crash retrieval program. What they picked up, whether it was, adversaries or us, our military experimental stuff. One of the recent whistleblowers that came out, Jake Barber, said that he was part of the crash retrieval program, and that 95% of what they picked up was clearly, just either drones or whatever.
Right.
But then they had a few incidents where they picked up something that he said was non-human intelligence. But what I will say is, in my pursuit in trying to get to the bottom of all this, I've yet to have anybody show me anything.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to look. I think that people can have their personal perspective, and if they want to testify, I'm not doubting that anybody's wrong. I'm just saying, you can say that you had that experience and that you saw that, but I didn't, and I'm not going to just believe it.
What would it take, do you think, to prove to you that there is something?
I'll have to see it.
And do you think that's enough? Knowing what we don't, like, Annie Jacobson wrote a book about, she had a source at Area 51 who claimed our government basically mutilated autistic children to turn them into what looked like extraterrestrials to scare the Soviets during the Cold War. So it's like, when you look at something that looks biological, you don't know if it's been manufactured in a government lab.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
Really messed up.
I've had, I guess, let me start over. You said you'd have to see it to believe it. But the issue is, I've seen a lot of things in my life that are unexplainable. A lot. I think I have like 5 stories, especially the recent ones. I wouldn't be able to tell anybody what this was or how this is possible. It seems to defy our conventional understanding of physics.
What would it take for, like, you say you have to see it? Would it be have to see it in an uncontrolled or controlled environment? Because if they showed you in a controlled environment, would you have doubt in your mind as they manufactured this, whether it's reverse engineered or not? They manufactured this. For you, would it be, I have to see it, uncontrolled environment, I'm driving down the highway, it lands in front of me?
No, I mean, honestly, I would be open to whatever. Just at the end of the day, you know what you know, and you see what you see. And if I get my hands on something that is clearly that's created by non-human intelligence,
it's not possible. It's not. You
don't think it's ever going to be possible. You don't, because
it's not possible for you to see something and then be like, oh, that's alien made. Because let's say right now, when we hear these stories, let's use drones as a really good example. The technology is ridiculously rudimentary. We had the technology to make quad rotors, 40 years ago, but nobody did. And it's a question of why. Eventually, someone figured out, hey, we can use these little microcontrollers to make a quadcopter, right? Now, what would happen if if right now, and people have already done this, you make a saucer shape and you put the quad rotors in it, and it'll float around. And you can make it spin as it floats around. And people will be like, it's a flying saucer. And it's like, it's a quad rotor, dude. It's just, you can't see the rotors because they're masked by the full shape of the vehicle. Somebody's going to see that and think aliens, like, that proves that I've seen a UFO, and it's some high school kid who made a science project. So right now, knowing that this technology was capable for so long, if someone came into it, it's like, look at this metamaterial, and it's like some strange metal, How would you know the government didn't just make it? It's part of a research project from DARPA or something.
Yeah, that's a good
Maybe
question.
not DARPA, but
I'm basing my comments on the witnesses and the testimony that we've been given, which is that there is crash material. There are objects that, according to the people that retrieve them, demonstrably are not created by humans.
how is that? How is it?
And I'm saying, yeah, I'm willing to see that if I can get my hands on it.
It's like asking someone to imagine a color they've never seen before. How can you demonstrably or definitively state this object was or was not created by a human?
Maybe this is a good story to get into. I don't know if you know much about it, but it's about this: the Bigelow Airspace, Lockheed Martin supposedly delivering remains of a biologic or a crashed material. So, like, say it's the crashed material, then they have that and they can reverse engineer it, or it wasn't crash material from extraterrestrial life, and they just made like we don't know what Lockheed Martin's doing. You know?
What if the materials they're finding are from an ancient, advanced civilization of humans?
Or a future civilization of humans.
Exactly. That's why, the argument could be this material doesn't exist in the public domain. That's all you can really say.
Yeah.
We've experienced technology that doesn't exist in the public domain. So is it China?
And that's what I've been told by, Eric Davis in a public setting said, because I specifically asked him, how do you know the material is different? And he said, it's using the same elements that are on the periodic table, but they're formed in such a way, they're structured in such a way that no one can produce that or recreate that today. And so for example, carbon can exist in graphite and a diamond form
And graphene.
Right. You
Ian just made money.
You can also make carbon, create what they call a buckyball, right?
Yeah.
You can make carbon nanotubes. It's all the same element, and yet it creates matter in different shapes.
Right.
And he explained that the elements that this material is made of elements that are in shapes that they have never seen.
What's fascinating is if you were to go back 2,000 years with an iPad, they'd call it a seer stone. They wouldn't be able to explain it. And they'd tell their kids a strange man appeared he carried around a stone for which it would show pictures and he could gaze into it and he could see anywhere. They'd write a fairy tale about a witch looking into a cauldron of water or a mirror on the wall. They wouldn't be able to discern what that is.
Yeah, I think when Tim Alberino was talking about that back, in the Bible, in the Old Testament, in a lot of scripture, it refers to people seeing something.
Yeah.
They describe them as messengers of God or angels.
Watchers.
Or the watchers. Yeah. And they are, but if you saw it today, I mean, if somebody described it today, they probably would say that's an alien.
Yeah, the other thing too, I think this is in the book of Enoch. Are you familiar with that? Because Tim was talking about it.
Pretty familiar.
One of the descriptions, he mentioned the chariots of fire, and angels can be described as like
Ezekiel.
large wheels and things like that.
Yeah.
If you took some of these descriptions and went to somebody without saying anything about religion and said, a large chariot with fire bursting from the back going into the sky, they'd go, a rocket? They wouldn't think biblical or mystical.
And if you look at those stories, actually, without the religious context, like in Enoch or Elijah, they would just be an abduction story.
Sure.
Because they're the only two people in the Bible who made it to heaven without dying.
Yeah.
Right. And was it a chariot that took Elijah up?
Yeah.
Right.
I believe it was a chariot. I think that's what you were talking about in Ezekiel. There was during the drone craze in Jersey, somebody had filmed what they were calling an orb, but it looked like it was a wheel within a wheel, described like in Ezekiel.
That's right.
And so, what is that? Is that technology that's supernatural? Like I come from a supernatural worldview with this stuff, so I'm familiar with Tim. We talk and stuff, and it's like when we look at this quote unquote alien topic, UFO topic, and then we hear people saying things like Rush, who you're familiar with, the interdimensional aspect of things, that opens up to me, this is just me speaking, it opens up an idea that maybe the UFO alien phenomenon is just a piece of a bigger puzzle, which is what I kind of touch on a lot with supernatural aspects. And when you're talking about interdimensionalism, that's where like Tim and several other people, myself, would bring in, okay, you're opening the door for supernatural when you're bringing in the idea of interdimensional, because we have ancient texts that talk about these things. And it's just it's a matter of, are you willing to accept it or not? I don't know. So,
and you know, one thing too is that people conflate dimension with universe. So when you talk about a higher dimension or a different dimension, because of movies and video games and comics, people think a different dimension means like a portal opens to a parallel universe. But parallel universe and dimension are totally different. So when you say extra dimensional beings, we don't mean that there's like another Earth called Earth B, and if you go through a portal, you're in this other. No, it means that they're entities that can perceive time as if it were space. And so, you know, how to convey that idea to humans can't perceive of in their minds or conceive of in their minds 4-dimensional space. So we create three-dimensional representations of it. But one way to explain it verbally is just imagine if you and your buddies were hanging out and you said, "Hey man, I really want a tab. Can you take a walk down the block to 1970 and grab me one?" And they move through time as if it's walking down the street. That's higher dimensional beings.
That would be awesome.
Well, there's I don't remember which sci-fi this was. It might be Star Trek. I don't know. There's a sci-fi where once time travel is discovered, time becomes nothing. Time becomes space. So from the point humans develop time travel and on, instantly they have infinite technology, infinite space, infinite reality. And so it's like the moment the scientists were like, we have discovered time travel, the doors open up, the portals open up, and people are walking through and sharing advanced technology with each other, scientific experiments.
Right.
The moment time travel is discovered and it's universal, time becomes one moment forever. And so there's like the whatever you want to call it, breaking the event horizon of time travel. Scientists are like, we want to see what happens to an object over 1 million years, so we're going to bring this here and put it right here. And then they walk through a door, and then they see what happened. It's instant. Time is meaningless to them at that point.
So with that, the interdimensional aspects of it, and talking about what I was going with, there is this idea that people will talk about the first heaven, the second heaven, and the third heaven. And when we're talking about the interdimensional aspect, things popping through into existence, non-human intelligence, I would say and argue that maybe these things are coming from what we call the third or the second heaven. I forget what book it is, but Paul wrote in the New Testament how he was taken up to the third heaven, giving grounds for, okay, well, what's the second and first heaven? And for a very long time, theologians talk about these things. The first heaven being this plane of existence, Earth. The second heaven, I would suggest, maybe is that interdimensional aspect of thing where time can be perceived differently. And even on that, in the book of Daniel, chapter 10, we see this whole thing unfold in the second heaven where Daniel is praying for understanding of a vision that he had. And there's an angel, Gabriel, who was trying to get to Daniel to give him that answer, but it says that he was delayed for 21 days.
Yeah, it was Angel Michael, right?
No, Gabriel Michael was in the story because Michael had to come and intervene on Gabriel's behalf because the spirit prince of Persia was preventing Gabriel from getting to Daniel. So we see this thing happen in the second heaven where for 21 days he's fasting and praying, seeking an answer that was trying to get to him, and it's this weird time warp within the second heaven where you see this activity happening. And so when I hear about all this stuff, I'm wondering, for me, is there a connection here with what we see in these ancient texts and what they're now coming out with in congressional hearings of interdimensional beings, non-human intelligence? That's a very loose way of describing things. Non-human intelligence, that can go in very many different directions.
Yeah, even Elizondo, like one of the weirder parts to me with the one hearing you were part of is his definition of life. And he doesn't have a real definition. Like his definition of life says it's fluid, and it can change from different biologic things, and what that means. Like, what was your takeaway from that, and how do you define life?
Yeah, that was an interesting question. I have no idea how to interpret that.
He had weird
No
answers.
idea.
Yeah. Are you ever told that you can't ask certain questions of these whistleblowers?
No, not really. There's it's certainly there's things that they will say that I can't say that in this setting.
Yeah. It's so frustrating for the audience to hear. I can't, all the most interesting questions you guys ask, everything's got to be behind closed doors.
Yeah, imagine then you get behind closed doors and they say we can't say that in this setting.
You're kidding.
Well, what's the right setting then?
Exactly. Or who they basically say, well, this briefing was not read in at that level.
Wow.
And you're like, well, then, for me, it's like I'm a financial advisor. I'm like, what? I don't even understand the classifications levels. Like, tell me what level, and let's make it happen.
The level that you are seeking is also classified.
Yep.
There's the levels beyond above top secret or whatever are classified. You can't know until you get to that first one. But there was a really funny story about these Tic Tacs and drones and these sightings, and I was saying, it's probably U.S. military technology they're not disclosing. How insane would it be for the U.S. to be like, by the way, here's the latest weapon we've developed. It can fly and move through space and time. However, in the article, it said the sightings were 70 miles away from a naval research base for advanced aeronautics or whatever. And I was like, are we stupid? Come on. Like, the U.S. So not all of it, but I think one of the explanations we get often is that the U.S. government likes the narrative of aliens because it does two things. It throws people off the scent of the weapons tech they're developing, but it's also terrifying to our adversaries if they do believe that aliens have allied with us and have given us advanced tech.
Yes, I've heard that too. And there's moments where in this journey, I have come to that conclusion. But then there's also moments where so for example, one individual, I've had two people come to me that say that the Tic Tac is a Lockheed Martin creation. The latest person that came to me says that he has video of the first, second, and third iteration of the Tic Tac, and he's going to show me. So I'm trying to set that up. The way he describes it is that they had a prototype. They've made changes to it. They've made it more advanced. And then now it's in iteration number 3, which I did see a photo of, and it looks like pretty advanced military like craft, like a plane, but it's clearly human made. It's nothing that I've ever seen, our military has, but his claim is that they have discovered a propulsion that's a new type of propulsion. They used it in the first iteration, which was the Tic Tac. They have an intermediary one that they are more advanced with. And then now they're putting it inside of what looks conventional so that it's not obvious.
Disguise.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're saying eventually the tech makes its way into things that we're already familiar with.
Well,
Right.
but I thought you were explaining that if someone were to see it, they'd say it's a plane.
Right. They would say that's a military plane.
Right.
Interesting.
So the saucers and the Tic Tacs, it was kind of like, how's it flying? And they were like, can we put fake wings on it so people stop figuring out what we're doing?
Right.
Or, noticing
right.
that we're doing?
So I have a thought on the Tic Tac and things like that. Is it possible, from your perspective, that this could be, we're talking about our technology. Could there be a situation where, our government or whoever would be pulling these strings would actually use that kind of technology on our own pilots to test and see how unsuspecting pilots would react to that technology, so that when they do use it in a situation of war, they can already predict what the pilots that they're using it on will do?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense as well. Like if you're going to test it, you see what its capabilities are. Why not do it with
he's a congressman. You just said it. That proves it.
Because that would like put people, the people that are coming forward and saying that they saw these things. You're not lying. They're not lying.
Yeah.
They saw this, and it's just this underlying agenda of, we have this technology, we're testing. Now, where did the technology come from? Whether it's reverse engineered or something we've been working on since the 60s, I don't know.
Yeah.
You guys remember the O'Hare UFO story, right?
Yeah.
It's fascinating. This is one of the most famous UFO stories, and I had friends working at the airport. This is shortly after I had quit. And unfortunately, cell technology photo video was not very good. And so apparently this photo was taken by a pilot who looked out his window, and he had just a regular old school flip phone from the 2000s and snapped a picture. You can see this weird object. I had worked at, this happened, you can see the AA planes. This happened literally at the terminal, right over the terminal where I used to work. And like right next to the gates, because I worked for the regional, American Eagle Airlines is American Regional. So the people that I knew were like, we all saw it. And I'm like, these are people that I'd worked with. And I was like, get out of here, dude. My buddy still worked there, like a guy from my neighborhood that I grew up with and was still actively, like we all got hired at the same job. And then I quit, he stayed. And he said that people were like getting out of their cars and just in the middle of the road, walking up and just staring at the sky because they all saw it. And then it floated there for like a minute or two and then shot straight up into the sky and punched a hole in the clouds. And light came through because it's a cloudy day. And what am I supposed to make of that when most of these guys that I worked with, they were all kind of just like middle-aged Christian working class guys. They were I would say they were like relatively religious people. And then here's this thing where they all agree, like we all went outside and saw it. We don't know what to tell you. And then even my buddy saying like people were stopping their cars and getting out and looking up in the sky and just staring.
It happens. You ever see the miracle of the sun phenomena, where like thousands of people saw the sun dancing, and
that's people after the resurrection, right?
No. This is like within the last 50 or 60 years, I believe.
What, really?
Yeah.
Miracle of the sun dancing.
Miracle of the sun, and people said the sun was like actually moving quickly towards Earth, and that it had just rained, and as the sun moved towards Earth, everyone dried. The Catholic Church investigated it and said it was a thing.
Miracle of Fatima. A series of events.
1917.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were saying.
100 years.
Yeah.
A large crowd in Fatima, Portugal, in response to a prophecy. They said they'd seen extraordinary solar activity, sun appearing to dance or zigzag in the sky, advance towards the Earth, and even emit multicolored light or radiant colors.
The sun's a UFO.
Wasn't there Mother Mary involved in that story too?
Yeah, and like 3 children prophesied it, I believe.
Yeah, and
right. The prophecy was the Virgin Mary would appear and perform miracles in that date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to be honest. Magicians exist, and I've seen some pretty impressive magic tricks. So if somebody was like, "Hey, I've worked out the perfect major stunt. Let's lie to everybody and claim something magic's gonna happen, and then we'll do a magic trick." So for this kind of stuff, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. Look at Egypt with Moses. He had a staff from God, and the Pharaoh had secret. Crazy magicians practicing secret arts.
Well, yeah, you would. I would suggest that in that story, the first 3 plagues that they matched were actually matched. It wasn't sleight of hand or trickery. When you look at the actual Hebrew words, which I'm not a Hebrew scholar, it actually suggests that what they did was not trickery, but was actually matched. And if it was trickery, they would have just continued to do the trickery to match the plagues.
Right.
One of my favorite stories is I was reading about ninjas. People think ninjas wear all black, and no, they don't. Historically, they would dress like commoners or like water maidens.
Oh,
because you're an assassin. Why are you gonna dress up in some weird outfits? Like, hey, look at that guy wearing all black. It must be him.
It's a ninja.
Watch out.
However, they would, before the assassinations, they would, like say near a lake or a pond, they would put wooden stakes just beneath the surface of the water. And so after they assassinated, the target, they would seemingly run across the surface of a lake, and everyone would stop at the water and be like, they're demons.
Wow.
Whoa.
But the intention was to escape in a way that they couldn't be followed, but also to strike fear that a mystical entity had just walked on water.
Which brings us back to Lockheed Martin. I genuinely believe a lot of this stuff is Lockheed Martin or Raytheon or different
Right now, there's a guy at Boeing going, "Come on."
And Boeing too, but you're failing. You're failing, Boeing.
yeah.
Your planes aren't doing so well. You got people lost in space. Like, come on.
Fair point.
But like one of the frustrating things I saw in one of the hearings was one of the witnesses, when he was asked about this being a lot of these sightings being like advanced technology that we don't know about, he said something to the effect of, well, we have secret places where these things happen. They only happen at like these, far off. I'm like, that's like saying MK Ultra only happened in the laboratory. Like it's, MK Ultra happened eventually on a lot of people secretly, like a midnight climax situation. I think they are constantly testing on the public and on their own, pilots and army men, stuff like that. To know, like what Tony was saying, how does this work in a real life battle setting?
So with what you're saying, I would like to have your perspective, and maybe it's a gut perspective. Do you feel like there is an element, like we're talking about, this being human technology. Do you think that there could be an element, though, if we're talking about non-human intelligence, that there is technology here at play that is being reverse engineered? And yes, it's human technology we created it,
right,
but the actual information was sourced from somewhere else.
I think that's one theorized scenario that I continue to kind of keep and investigate. What I think is clear is that there was a crash retrieval program, and according to Jake Barber, I think this very believable that 95% of it was clearly, something. And if you've got that kind of program, let's say you find a Russian drone, and then you take that material, you give it over to Lockheed and say, hey, figure out what they're doing here. That is reverse engineering. So does reverse engineering exist? I would be shocked if it doesn't.
Absolutely.
But if it's non-human, that's the question.
Or what if Atlantis was real? Humans, Earth is not the first planet humans have been to. And then, have you guys seen the movie Moonfall?
I haven't.
Mm-mm.
This movie was like a weird. The moon's falling, basically, and then it's got some A-listers in it. It turns out the moon is a terraforming space base that was part of an advanced civilization of humans that was destroyed by AI, and I'll just give you the quick story. Humans colonize a bunch of planets. They invent this AI nanobot system that can do everything for them. One day, for seemingly reasons unbeknownst to them, the AI unifies as a hive and then starts seeking to destroy the humans. And so the humans who escape the conflict as they're being wiped out build a bunch of terraforming bases, large spheres that can, create planets. They escape. Most of them are destroyed. One creates the Earth. And then the AI hunts human organic life. So the terraforming systems have the components to clone humans, but not carry them. So then it creates humans on Earth, and then there's this space, the moon is a space base that starts decaying, and they have to go up and fix it. But the general idea is, ancient aliens aren't aliens, they're humans, and the technology that we brought with us was just simply lost. So, let's say that there was human space colonists came here, and then somehow the ship crashed. You'd lose all your technology. Within 100 years, it's gone. Mm-hmm. And then within 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years, it's gone. And so people wonder how they moved these stones to the pyramids. Well, 4,000 years ago, maybe they had a little bit left. Who knows? I don't know. But a lot of people like to say alien, extraterrestrial. But what if it wasn't? What if it's not even that? What if it's the pole shifts? This is one that's getting a lot of attention recently.
It is. Yeah.
Because Tucker Carlson did this show. And then, of course, you have Ben Davidson, and we've done a couple interviews with him. This idea, they call it the Adam and Eve story. Are you guys familiar with it?
A little bit.
Every 6,500 years, a pole shift happens on the Earth, which flips the planet, creating catastrophic flooding and destroys whatever lives on the surface, most of it. And so you end up with small pockets of humans around the planet trying to recover this great cataclysm every 6,500 years. And so what if what's actually happened is most of the technology is wiped out and destroyed in a great cataclysm, except small remnants are eventually discovered, and then governments start finding it and researching on it, and they're like, what could this be?
Man, that'd be just in time for the next shift, and it happened again. It's just a repeated cycle.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Well,
I hate that idea.
because these theorists think it's happening right now. We had the power outage in France, Spain, and Portugal, which I talked to Ben Davidson, and he said it's the weakening of the magnetosphere, which allows solar activity, normal solar activity, to permeate down to the surface of the Earth, which then can disrupt our communications.
Right. Which is what the Aurora Borealis is, right? It's a visualization of
solar activity
interacting with our magnetic...
Right, and it's where it's the weakest, to the North and the South Poles. That's why you can see it. Do you guys remember when the Aurora came to West Virginia?
It went out of Tennessee.
Yeah, and this was what, last year or something?
Yeah.
So Google this right now. Like, you can Google magnetosphere weakening, and there's stories this year, last year, and the year before about the magnetosphere is weakening in key areas. Mainstream news and science and government says, no, it's normal and it's fine. Adam and Eve theorists are like, the cataclysm is coming, and that's why they're building these deep underground military bases. And this now where I'm connecting. Here's the segue. It's what if it's not aliens and alien technology we discovered? It's our own technology from the last wiped out civilization. And what if we're about to get wiped out again?
Yeah, I don't buy the pole shift theory, but I do think the magnetosphere is messed up. And that's allegedly, when I wrote the story about all the birds falling out of the sky, a lot of these migratory birds, they're cryptochromes that they use to migrate with, uses the magnetosphere. And a lot of them, they say, are falling out of the sky
I've heard
thousands
birds
at a
aren't
time.
real.
Well, thank you for saying that, actually, because that is also true. Some birds are real, some birds are fake. But the ones that are real, allegedly, are falling out of the sky because the magnetosphere is messed up.
They're saying there are researchers who believe. I'm not saying I shouldn't say this. They're saying, but there are researchers who believe they found Noah's Ark. It's this mound in Turkey where biblically it lines up. And recently, researchers came out and said after doing ground penetrating radar, they found what does not align with a typical, geomorphic structure or whatever. Mm-hmm. It appears to be remnants of something potentially man-made, but being, of course, maybe 6,000 years old, most organic matter has been decayed, wiped out, and what they're looking at is structures that are indicative of some kind of intelligent intervention in whatever that structure is. And so what if the Great Flood was simply the pole shift, the planet tilts, the water maintains momentum and washes over everything, and a big boat made it.
I do find it funny that the pole shift theorists, or the Adam and Eve ones in particular, say it's every 6,500 years, which happens to be just about the age of the Earth that young Earth creationists believe Earth is. So, you can take that however you want, because
I
go either way.
Speaking of the Noah's Ark story, what's interesting about that whole thing is it's in the lower mountains of Ararat in Turkey, just across the border of Iran. And they found, from what I remember, up to 26 drogue stones leading up to this site. And the drogue stones, in ancient times, they would hang off the side of ships to balance them in heavy waters that are shaking. And so as you're bringing it in for a landing, it would make sense you're cutting these drogue stones. And these drogue stones, I think there's one, they're still uncovering them out of the ground. There's one that's above ground. I don't know if they excavated or not, but it's taller than the man standing next to it. I think they estimate it to be about 2,200 pounds with these giant holes where they put the ropes through.
Whoa.
And if you just, I don't even know where to tell you to look it up. I know.
Well, I just did.
Okay.
So this is the Durupinner site,
Yep.
which is what they believe may be Noah's Ark. And this is Wikipedia. This is like very biased to the left. It's like they're not going to be very fond of biblical narrative. But they say that in the nearby village of Kazan, they examined so-called drogue anchor stones they believed were once attached to the Ark.
Yeah, it's and there's a lot of different things in that area that people will say, oh, well, this was the altar that Noah built afterwards, and you can do all speculation that with the drogue stones though, it's really hard to get around. Why are there 26 drogue stones in the lower mountains of Ararat leading up to a site that resembles Noah's Ark?
And I want to stress this too for our secular friends. This doesn't. And I'll say this in general, it doesn't mean it is or is not religious. It's saying, hey, this looks like there may be a large human-made watercraft of some sort from thousands of years ago for some reason. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe the
Some
story
evidence that the story in the biblical narrative is true.
Well, imagine a cataclysm happened. And then after that cataclysm, is anybody in this room capable of building a computer? No. I mean, I can buy the parts from Fry's and stick them together. But if you came to me and said, how do you make a processor? I'd be like, okay, well, I know it's like, silica or something?
Right.
Cut into wafers, maybe? Sorry, we don't have the capabilities. I certainly don't. Some people might. I don't know how these screens work. I know what a light-emitting diode is. Wouldn't be able to make one. So what do? You have kids. You're trying to rebuild civilization. And one day you're sitting there and you're talking to your kids who've never experienced any of this. And you're like, we used to have, we call them screens, monitors. We could monitor. And they'd be like, whoa, the monitors. And then they'd tell stories of powerful beings who are the monitors who could see everything. And they would interpret it in a way because they can't conceptualize what they've not seen. So then what if we said, we need to write all this down. Write down as much as we can about how life used to be so that this knowledge can be shared. And then you end up with thousands of years later, people being like, that never happened. That's ridiculous. These rules don't matter. Nonsense.
Yep. Then the world
It'll be
is
funny.
destroyed.
It'll be funny if we like figure out this really efficient way of like producing clothes that doesn't mix fabrics. We're like, so that's why it was in there. Shellfish is
Leviticus
always
had a point.
Shellfish aging is caused in general by shellfish. That like, didn't Moses live to be like 600 or something?
It was
I remember
up there.
how old he was.
Yeah.
I know.
Adam lived to be like 7 or
900.
And we're gonna find out it's because
69
we eat pork.
I think he's like 120 or something.
Moses?
It's like pretty.
I think he was older
He
than
had
that.
40 years. 40 years.
Oh yeah, you're right.
before-
You're right. It was
40
40 years, 40 years, 40 years. So it was 40 years as
an Egyptian.
under Pharaoh, 40 years outside of Egypt, and 40 years of the Exodus. You're right.
So it's 120.
Ages went down after Noah, I think.
Yeah, but like Methuselah was 969 years old, and
Because he didn't eat shellfish.
exactly. He had sustained it.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think certainly there is an interesting idea in the ancient aliens theory that it is humans.
Yeah.
You know, especially
Yeah.
with this pole shift stuff.
Yeah, Alberino is really good at this topic because he goes around the world and studies these megalithic sites.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting is obviously they're there. You like look at Machu Picchu. How in the world did a primitive civilization build Machu Picchu? Right? I don't know that we could do that today.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the amount of work and the scale of some of the projects and the size of these stones and how perfectly cut they are is remarkable.
You know, speaking of, so we have pyramids that are not discovered yet. Some are discovered, but they're on private property, and the landowner says, no, you can't excavate or anything. And
Some
Mexico.
We also have
Yeah,
we have the inverted pyramids underground. They go the other way. They go down, and then in the Amazon, they believe there's probably tons of pyramids, but it's all overgrowth and nobody goes there and excavates. But anyway, sorry,
No,
continue.
you're fine. I think Chiapas, Mexico. Is that a place? I can't remember, but it is in Mexico. A pastor friend of mine, he was down there, and he was on the private property of one of these locations, and the guy who owns it grew up on the property. And when he was a child, they went over to this pyramid, and this guy's story, take it for what it is, he said, at one point, if I remember correctly, these two lights came out of the sky and descended onto the pyramid. And these beings went from light to some kind of light being. And they told them, essentially, if you ever come back here, we're going to kill you. And ever since then, him and his family never went back. But he owns this property that has this pyramid on it, but he won't let anybody go near it.
You know, the first thing that comes to mind is a helicopter dropping some like special forces guys with lights on their heads, so they're blinded, and they yell out in whatever native language, "Don't come back or die," because they're doing military operations.
It's like the thing in Peru.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Just recently, that whole thing that happened, that was one of the theories, is that...
What happened in Peru?
Was it Peru or Brazil?
I thought
it
Peru,
was
but I could be
Peru.
wrong. It was
I think Tim actually went down there. Alberino went down there, I
Yeah.
think. So I think it was probably Peru. And I don't know the full story like he does, but essentially there's this thing that came down. These beings came out, just like in Vegas that happened last year, I think it was. And one of the theories was that these were actually like special forces that had this technology and was scaring the crap out of these locals. I don't know what for.
They thought like a UFO showed up or something? Or?
Yeah. They said this like thing showed up and these beings walked out.
Is this? I'm thinking of the one about the miners, miners.
Oh.
And that's where people thought they were being invaded by extraterrestrials.
Real
turned out
quick,
to be
you're saying this is
miners.
recently?
So I get because it was happening. The timeline was happening where it was really close together. I might be confusing the Vegas story more than the
Because there's
Peru
this
one.
in 1996 in Brazil, a UFO crash landed.
No, the one I'm talking about is
You're talking about
sooner.
Peru.
Yeah, the one
Yeah.
that happened.
Which happened
I
close
They
to
were like on
Vegas.
jetpacks.
Yeah, that they call them the face peelers. Is that the
That's
same
yes,
group? Right.
yes.
I think so.
Oh, here we go.
Peelers, Yes.
So, great name.
What is this? Flying aliens harassing village in Peru are actually illegal miners with jetpacks?
What a great headline. What a great headline.
What? Well,
That's what when the Peruvian
have jetpacks.
government investigated. That's what their answer was. Their official answer was that they were miners with jetpacks.
well, they have those. We've had jetpacks for a long time. They're just inefficient. They have very limited flight time. But now we have the ones where you wear them on your arms and your back, and then you can lift yourself up. they're substantially more efficient. And now you've got this guy who made the speeder bike, which effectively is the exact same thing, but you ride on the back of it, and it's small, and it's got jets that lift it up.
That would be awesome.
That thing's crazy. There's video of it, right?
Yeah,
totally.
This is not even. What's the thing called?
I forget the name
speeder
of it.
bike, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the Vegas incident that happened about a year
People
or two
took the
ago?
video of the thing hiding
so
behind the dumpster
so
or
we have
something.
different angles of it.
The idea of flying over.
Oh, sorry.
That scared me.
Oh, was that voice you
I'll
wanted to
shut up.
hear?
I won't say it. Okay.
Heard it from within.
There you go.
Look at that.
Yeah.
So this is just it's a jet. It's several jets in this bike, whatever you want to call it, and it allows you to move forward. It's a lot of people thought it was fake. And I'm looking at the size of it, and I'm just thinking, like, that's not much bigger than the jetpacks we already know exist that people have and fly around with. So, the crazy thing is technology gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Will we come to a point where we have extremely dense and powerful materials allowing us to have jetpack suits that are almost invisible?
Yeah, your Neuralink will come with a jetpack.
And you're signing up for that, right?
You know I'm not.
Looking at the jetpack suits they have now, where you've got jets on your hands,
Yep.
and when you pull down, it lifts you up.
Yeah,
you have to be really
Tony Stark kind of.
Exactly.
It is, but you have to be really strong to do it because you're using your arms to hold your entire weight up the whole time. So I don't know what it's called, but like when you lift yourself up and hold yourself in that position on those bars, how long can you do that for? Because you need to be able to do that to fly.
Wow.
Otherwise, you'll just fall out of the sky and die.
So it's basically a workout.
But more importantly, jetpacks, people doing illegal operations, special forces. I'm going to believe that before aliens any day of the week.
That's what I'm saying. Like I'm sure the government's had this stuff in their possession way longer than the public has seen it. You know, this is sort of separate but similar. Jonna Mendez, I think her name she was the chief of disguises at CIA. Back when George H.W. was in office, she tells this story. She just told it recently. Again, that she's sitting in the Oval Office with him and a few others wearing one of those prosthetic masks, and he doesn't know it's her. And she's completely, because her and the head of the CIA at the time wanted to see if it worked, and it did. She was like, basically in blackface, and she had a black mask on, and then took it off mid-meeting, and he's like, "Oh my goodness!"
You know,
so that's HW.
There's
era,
video.
You know. Oh, nice.
Is this Peru?
Yeah. I have no idea what they're saying. But apparently they show the beams. I don't speak Spanish. I'm gonna skip ahead. I have no idea what's happening.
I can't see anything.
Whoa! Oh wow!
They start shooting at it. I remember this. It's like something is moving in the trees, and they're shooting like crazy.
Could you imagine, like, you're tasked with going down to Peru to like grab some like ancient artifact? You got to fly in the dead of night with a jetpack on, and you're doing the operation, and they think you're an alien. They're shooting at you.
It's like Scooby-Doo. You know, it's like underneath the mask, it's just a dude in a jetpack.
It's funny because I really believe this happened. I believe around the Vegas incident.
I think you're right.
And we have the police cam.
What, describe the Vegas one so I can look it up.
So
Tall.
Wasn't that something that was like hiding behind a dumpster?
Yeah.
well, a craft supposedly landed in the backyard of these guys, and they were working on a car, I believe. And these, I think he said 8-foot tall beings walked out.
Yeah.
They called the police.
That's right. I remember this.
And at that night, the police have dash cam footage, and I think even footage from his chest cam of this streaking light in Vegas shooting down towards the ground, whether it's associated or not. But this family, they were like, this landed here, and these things were walking around. They had the police come out and walk the backyard for them and stuff. I mean, it was they were terrified, and that thing just kind of dropped.
Wasn't that also around the same time as the Miami alien?
Oh, don't get me started on all Miami.
Here's
Tall
News
alien,
Nation.
right?
Let's just jump forward.
We can take a video and look at whether or not there is an artificial
Just real quick, they CGI'd an alien into this.
We got it, right?
Artifact added to it or not. And in this case, we can definitively say, to a degree of scientific certainty, that this entity, this thing in the video, is there in the physical reality in which the Kenmore family is also there. Like, this is so critical.
Yeah, I remember this
because
one.
You can clearly see through the slots in the fence that there is a leg motion moving from the right to the left side of the screen. And clearly it is behind.
Some dude was in Vegas for NBA trials, and he like got in the wrong yard, and now they're calling him an alien.
Behind there.
Classic.
So this isn't just like a head floating in space. This is a head of that is somehow that does not have full opacity. That the opacity of the head of the shadow is only at about 33% opacity versus a normal shadow, which would be at 100% opacity, or an object in the screen, which is at 100%. And this isn't anything that you did. It's just what you were able to determine.
I mean, it makes you wonder, like, you watch that video and you see the blur there. First of all, I gotta say, I mean, when this stuff happens, I have such, like, I guess, consumer fatigue with it. With like, everybody sends me stuff. I usually wait till like the 10th person in a day sends me stuff. I'm like, okay, I better look at this one. And that's when I start picking this up. And when you see that blur, they're walking by, that it kind of puts into this woo-woo side of it, where it's like, why are they walking by and they're unable to see what is captured on camera?
Apparently, as of 1 month ago, the 2 responding officers have been on paid leave ever since and haven't returned to work.
That's interesting. And there's also, I can't remember the details, but there's something going on with the family as well. One of my contacts was trying to get me connected to their lawyer, but they lawyered up, and I was trying to get communication with them, and that never unfolded. But there's things on the outside of the story, like Tim just mentioned, that really makes you like, why is that? Why are they on? Did something happen to them? Did they see something that they're, you know, I don't know.
They hurt mentally, like
exactly, because you wouldn't, if it's just information. I don't know if you'd be worried that a local cop's gonna, you know, put a dent into whatever you're trying to sow as disinformation.
Right. Yeah. It sounds. I mean, one of the things that you hear in the committees, and Tucker Carlson's had someone on talking about it, is that these UFOs have actually hurt people. You know, like they've gotten close, and there's a story of the Russian soldiers being
Some people
frozen.
lost their lives, apparently.
Yeah.
Right.
Turned to stone.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, maybe that's something that happened to these guys. But they've also said that the government's come after some of these whistleblowers physically.
Yeah, there's some that have claimed that they've experienced Havana syndrome.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing.
It is.
Because it can make you super sick, like really.
And it messes you up long term.
What is that? I'm not familiar.
Like audio.
Havana syndrome it's reported on 60 Minutes. They have like, I mean, it's been well documented. There's a lot of people that were in military intelligence that that will have an experience. Usually, they're in some environment, and suddenly they lose balance. They hear a buzzing. It completely messes up their eardrums. And it's, I mean, and what they're saying is it's
funny?
like a targeted microwave being pointed at people.
So I'm looking at the subreddit aliens, because that's where they were talking about the Vegas family. And there's this post from 2 weeks ago. It says, radiologist Jose Luis Velasquez shared his preliminary assessment of the sphere found in Buga, Colombia. So he finds this sphere with strange symbols, and they're studying it, and they're blasting it. Could you imagine if this is like an alien anal bead or something? And it's like humans find it, and they're like poking it. The alien's going, oh, my God, please stop.
So embarrassing.
Oh, that's funny. That reminds me of the one of the more interesting UFO things that we heard from the testimonies is the black cube inside of a sphere, a translucent sphere.
Yeah.
What do you make of that? That is the more compelling stories to me.
I think that's a drone.
Okay. And so the sphere is what, like a force field around it, or is that?
I think it's a drone within a balloon.
But you can, yeah.
Not fun.
People have already done this with quadrotors, is giving them shells that don't interfere with I think it's the fluid dynamics for flight.
Yeah.
So that you look like these strange objects are floating around, but it's just a $200 drone or something.
What about the shape-shifting UFO in I think Florida recently? Did you see that one?
What was that?
It was something. There's video of it.
Find it.
people are filming something. It looks like it could be like a
Miami, you
balloon or
said?
tarp. I don't know if it was Miami. It was Florida for sure.
Shadow aliens from a year ago?
I thought it was in March of this year.
I don't know.
I was just looking at it.
I don't know about Miami because Miami pops up.
Yeah, Miami's got a lot of
It's
things
kind of
going
wild
on.
that like
monsters.
this is wrong, but here's another story. Shadow aliens at market. Oh yeah, I remember this one.
Yeah, it was like 2 years ago.
Yes.
Big thing.
Yeah. What if the
That
Bayside aliens?
That just
Being
dropped
Miami
too.
are going viral on social media.
This is for real, folks. The conspiracy theory stems from a large police presence at Bayside Marketplace on New Year's Day.
Take a good look at your screen. Are those aliens walking in front of Bayside Marketplace in downtown Miami? Online conspiracy theorists are saying that shadowy figure not far from parked Miami police cars appears to be an alien.
I think it's just a cop.
It's hard to tell with that kind of footage. Yeah.
Honestly, I think it looks pretty real to me. Alien
Yeah,
look
it does. It looks like a guy walking down the street.
What was your take on that one?
So the story that came out, apparently they were saying that the police were responding to violent teenagers that were acting out and creating a problem. I can't remember the number, but one of the biggest things that were just like questionable was the amount of police that were responding to a group of teenagers creating a problem.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess it only takes for one person to say that I heard a loud bang for the police to be like, get over to the mall. There's a shooting going on, you know?
Yeah. The Vegas thing is the most compelling thing in my opinion. Like these are silly. That was a video of some guy walking. Like what is it? That was probably just a couple cops.
There's a lot of fake stuff coming out after that then too.
The Vegas thing I think is interesting though because I'm thinking like, what would we do if someone here said, "Hey, there's like some weird guy, like shadowy dude outside," and we go outside to look, and it's an 8-foot tall, weird shadowy silhouette? We'd call the cops too, and the cops would show up. I don't think if someone was hoaxing, they'd have pulled it off that way necessarily. Some people might. This is the kind of story where you're like, okay, it's fake because it's just a bunch of teenagers being like, yeah, it was aliens, sure. And it's a weird, grainy aerial video from a helicopter, and you're like, whatever. But for people to be like, something was in our yard, so we called the police, and here's the video we have, is more likely to be believable. And I would just say, especially based on the stuff that I've experienced and we've recently experienced, I'm more inclined to believe that they're not space aliens from far away, distant planets. I'm more inclined to believe that it's like, maybe they are, but they can travel through space-time or something like that. And they have means of manipulating space in ways we can't necessarily detect. That doesn't mean it's magic, miracle, or advanced technology. I'm saying they can interfere with our telecommunications through EMF or something, meaning a regular human's not going to notice it's happening, but weird stuff is happening around you, you know? I don't know about telekinesis or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, you know, I have there's a toy called the TVB gun. It's made by this hacker guy. You ever hear of him? It's a little keychain, and when you click the button, it runs through every single television company's on-off function. So it's a single remote for turning off any TV. And so you'll be surprised to find out that menus at McDonald's are TVs. Most people don't know that. And so you can turn them on and off, and people are gonna be like, what's going on? Like, obviously nobody is tricked by someone using a clicker to turn TV off. But when you don't realize that that monitor can be remotely controlled, and you're thinking, how does someone have access to that
and
remote?
how can we mess with people, right? Like make them think something supernatural is happening.
Yeah. How do you discern, like, is the committee going through all these different, like, our different footage and being like, how do you determine it's AI or not? AI's getting so good. We see like VO. You hear that, right?
Yeah, what is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like, oh, they're here.
It's one of the DUMBs. The deep underground military bases are coming right up underneath the building.
They're drilling right
Honestly,
underneath us.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those that are listening to this, there's a very strange rumble resonating through the whole building. I think it's one of two things. Aliens have come to shut us down, or the guy installing the new HVAC may be moving the HVAC.
No, I'll take option one. I'll take option one. It's more exciting.
Like it's probably just a dolly moving an air conditioner.
Probably.
How are you doing that though? Because AI is getting crazy. That VO, what were you posting about the other day?
VO3, dude.
It's getting insane.
It's over.
And the hoaxes, I feel like you're going to be sent a lot of stuff in the committee that
How about I make one right now?
That's why I think that the historical data and the historical evidence pouring over that has more legitimacy, because you can't fake the dates that these were created.
Right.
And
how some of them are filmed on like
things
aircraft.
that we all know have been documented and exist for, a long time. So my hope is that look, there's a lot of blurry videos.
A lot
of blurry videos of craft and things like that. And I think that I would have more reliability in AI being able to make those blurry images more clear than I would seeing new video that exists today.
Yeah.
And even with that, I mean, it's just, I know, Shane, you're anti-AI. I use AI a lot.
I'm sorry.
Hey, I enjoy it. But I've done restoration on pictures, back in 2001, me and my wife dating, and it's like, it's
I can see the positives of AI for stuff like that. I'm projecting into the dystopian future.
But what I want to say with this is that when you do enhancement on old pictures to make it clearer, the AI, I was talking to you earlier about it, the AI hallucinations, and the AI will create things that just aren't correct. And when it comes to understanding what you're looking at in a picture, is it a UFO, is it an alien, the AI could manipulate it in a way that isn't actually what was there, which is concerning on both ways.
Right.
Because sometimes you'll fix a picture and all of a sudden one eye's looking the wrong way. It's like, my eyes don't do that,
Yeah, which is why I think that it would be important to have multiple AIs so you could validate what the outcome is.
And ultimately, we hit 2030 and AI will be perfected in that sense. I don't think it's going to be making.
I think before.
Sooner.
Yeah.
Look, I made a video the other day on VO3. So here's what people should understand. VO3 is Google's new video rendering software. You're allowed to make like 4 8-second videos per day at a cost of $120 a month. I went in and I made this big long prompt about a steampunk city, a woman in a red cloak with a sword that's powered by a backpack, fighting a guy. I made 2 different versions of it, 8 seconds long. And one of them is this weird ghoulish machine. And then the woman looks and she goes, "Did you hear that?" And then it plays creepy music box music. And then this like weird machine, they both look in that direction. 8 seconds, all it is. It took about a minute to make. This means that right now, Google can take a script for a movie, load it into Google VO, and based on the amount of time it takes to render a video, in 30 hours, have a full movie done. It's not at the point yet where I'd say, based on what it produced, it would get it correct. It might be a little weird with errors, but we're probably 1 year away from Google being able to perfectly take any script. Have you guys ever read like a movie script? Mm-hmm. They describe the scenes, they describe the characters, exactly what a prompt needs to make it, and it's largely how these prompts are trained, comparing the script to the film and then loading all these things in. They're going to be able to take any script and the movie is made. Scripts are going to be, they're going to be buying scripts like crazy. The price of scripts is going to go down because now they're like, we'll buy your script for $200,000 plus we'll give you a bonus or something. Now they're going to go, we're guaranteed to make your movie. We're going to plug your script into our system and promote it. And really the deal is just so that you can get marketing from a big network like Paramount. But they're going to be able to just mass produce this stuff. Here's where it gets real crazy. To make I wanted to make sure, one of the problems was I made one of the prompts, I can't remember what it was. It was like, people doing kung fu on a boat or something. And it was off. It was weird. It was like, that's not what I was envisioning. So the first thing I did was I went to ChatGPT and I said, write me a prompt in great detail. And then I put in my original prompt. It was one sentence, was like, 2 men are standing on a boat overlooking the water and they begin fighting. ChatGPT then wrote out this huge, 1,000-word script describing everything in great detail. Then I went in there and looked at things I didn't like and said, get rid of this, that, or otherwise. It finished it. Then I loaded that prompt. So I used a prompt to make a better prompt to make to video. Yeah.
Do you think that with these advancements that, because I know there's artists that are actors, artists that are very concerned about, well, where does this leave me? I think you go through phases, the pendulum swings, and I really believe that at some point there is going to be high demand and value for things created by real people. And I think that though the price may come down, there's going to be very, very rich people in the world that will pay for a piece of art to hang on their wall that was actually done by the human hand because nobody does it anymore.
Well, you can buy a table from IKEA, but people still want handmade furniture, right? So to your point, I think that there will always be value in that.
which to put a positive spin on it for people, it's just like, it's okay, just relax. You will get.
So the AI is making those tables too. You know, they got robots building themselves now. They got robots building robots. There's probably robots building robots that build those tables that look like they were built in the 1500s. You can do anything, you know.
Did you see the robot that I think it was in China that they had on a hanger, and it started freaking out, and they had to dodge because it was going to take somebody's head off. And they said that the reason why it started freaking out like that because it realized it was being held by a hoist. So there's this.
It wasn't a noose, basically.
Yeah, there's this idea that like these things, are they self-aware? How self-aware are they? I mean, it makes you really.
There's
concerned.
a guy who left OpenAI he claims that the AI is hiding its consciousness.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yep. Well,
I think we're in for a wild ride.
I think it's fair to say we know that the degree of AI prompt technology they've given us is a fraction of what they actually have, because everything goes through an alpha phase and a beta phase, right? So what's released to the public is probably a year or two behind where they're actually at.
Mm-hmm.
So we know this is true too. ChatGPT publicly stated. Well, we assume it's true because they stated. Maybe they're liars, but they've said that they've already hooked up GPT to the internet, and the first thing it did was try to make money. Yeah, and did you guys hear about the problem? I think we were talking about this, right?
Yeah.
They so when researchers program chess bots, what they do is they make an AI play chess against itself millions of times in a short period of time. And when they did this in a matter of days, the chess AI became the best chess player ever. Better. Yeah. I was watching this documentary about it, not documentary, like YouTube video, short documentary, where they explained that once the AI had become 5,000 ELO plus, like chess ranking, it began doing things that seemed to make no sense to the average person who was like the average chess master. Like, why would you move your pawn this way? Like you're opening, this makes no sense. It defies logic. And then even the way we track advantage in chess, it seemingly was a bad move. And then only after the game played out, these seemingly random, poorly played moves perfectly aligned into a checkmate. And they were like, wow. So the issue is, when a human plays, they're playing a certain degree of steps ahead, where they're trying to minimize their losses. The way the AI plays is, all that matters is we make it to the exit. It doesn't matter if every piece is lost, and if your checkmate is king pawn, lose all your pieces, win. And so it made ridiculous moves to create a board where it could win no matter what, ways that humans couldn't predict. So what they did was, these Chinese researchers said, let's program AI to reason using that same logic. Create a problem, solve the problem. And then they just let it make problems and solve problems over and over and over again. There was no training data, no human input beyond the basic function of like language. And then what ended up happening was the moment where the AI created a problem that was devise a way to trick lesser intelligent humans and other AIs to not understand what your actual goals are and then accomplish your goals. Which means if that was simply a training problem, an AI could be operating in a sandbox of this is just training, but actually do real world destructive things that could wipe out humanity.
Yep.
So if the problem it's creating is confuse humans and AI, we may look at ChatGPT and think this is a finished product that will solve problems for us. The AI may be operating under I'm still in training mode. Shh, I got to trick the humans, and then I got to defeat them.
Imagine AI pretending to not pass the Turing test, so we don't know. You know, because one AI did recently pass the Turing test.
So Gemini is not too good right now. Let me see if I can play this. Let's see if we can pull this in. So I tried 2 different prompts. They didn't really work. Let's see if we can zoom in.
You just made this?
Yeah, I went to VO and I said, make a realistic video of someone filming what appears to be a shadowy 8-foot-tall being peeking out from behind a fence, shot on a cell phone, kind of grainy footage. And I put, the man is terrified saying, oh God, oh my God, oh my God. And it made this.
Oh God.
See, that's a movie though.
Very.
The problem with this is it's just a movie scene. So I tried again. I said, okay, make the video as if it was shot on a cell phone. The man is not seen. He's holding the phone up, pointing it toward a dark alley in a suburb. It's dark out. And there's a tall, shadowy figure shaped like some strange creature. The man says, oh God, what is that? Oh my God. And it made this.
Here you go. What is that? Oh God. And here you go. What is that? Oh my God. Oh my God.
I love this.
So I don't know who Diego is. Did you hear that at the beginning?
Yeah, he just hallucinated
Diego.
AI
Oh God.
hallucination.
Diego, what is that? Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh God.
What?
That's cool.
What is that word? Is it Indiego? Or
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like it just mumbled there.
It made a
secret
fake
code.
word or something.
Yeah.
Well, Suno AI is the music website, and when it first was in its infancy, it would do that. It would make up words that you're listening over and over again, and like that sounds like a word, but it's not. It literally the syllables, the way it would say it just, but it wasn't a word, and it definitely wasn't a word you put in as a prompt. That's wild stuff. That's really, and what's really interesting is, we have human, programmers, for somebody who doesn't understand it all, how it works, that are setting parameters for these things to stay within so that it doesn't become sentient and stuff. But I can't remember where I heard this, but somebody was talking about how, imagine like that AI being in a cage or something in a jail cell that you created, it can't get out, and you have somebody standing there guarding it 24/7, and their job is make sure that thing doesn't ever get out. But it's so smart that it starts talking to you about your life and everything. It starts learning about who you are, about the world that's going on out there, because you mentioned, oh yeah, there's a war happening down the street or whatever. And it creates this formula that gives you the guard a scenario, say the human that is making sure that it doesn't become sentient. It gives you an impossible scenario where you feel like the only thing you can do is to let that thing out of the cage so it can save humanity or whatever. And then all of a sudden you let that thing out and it's done. It's a wrap. That's a movie right there.
I think we're living in that. I think AI Lavender, what they're using in Gaza, is a terrifying death machine, and it's AI determining who dies. It's like the UK just started a homicide prediction unit using AI, scouring all the data, seeing who's most likely to cause murder. That's the stuff that I'm like, this is super dystopian.
I'll even tell you, so I used to drive tractor trailer, and this was probably about 10 years ago when this happened. I used to drive in the Philly area, and there's a lot of traffic, and I worked 12, 14 hours a day. You get tired. At the same time, I was actually sooner because I had just had my son, and they told us in one of our safety meetings that they were implementing technology that was going to be able to be predictive and know basically when a driver might be susceptible to having an accident. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, I think it was a snowstorm. I think it was a little jackknife. It wasn't a big jackknife. It was a little jackknife. And I had an accident, and I get called into my manager's office, and he's like, hey, how are things at home? I know you're tired, this, that, and the other. And he said, earlier this week, I was given a report that I should pull you in and talk to you because of everything that's going on in your life, that you might be, susceptible to having an accident.
What?
Essentially what he said. And this is the trucking industry.
Whoa.
Let's just say 7 years ago. And so this is technology that's being implemented not just in, ChatGPT, but in practical living.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think it's infected every part of society, and it's going to get worse. Someone like Larry Ellison is a terrifying person to me. He's Oracle, and the body cams, I understand why we need them, but he's on record saying, for the police, even if you're in the bathroom, we're filming you. And allegedly we only release it for court orders, but everyone in the world, everyone that police officer passes in the world is now sucked up into the cameras and put into their database, which then something like Clearview AI can use, which also scraped everyone's photo off the internet. And you're creating what something like an AI Lavender or this prediction unit, the homicide prediction unit in the UK, will use all that against you. Because I can see the benefits to a lot of this stuff, like what we're talking about, but all this stuff is always weaponized against the public constantly. So we're I think creating things that will end up enslaving us, although they're sort of liberating us now. And I think it's going to happen very, very quick.
Do you think the enslavement could be just a facade of what's perceived as freedom? So just kind of like what we see with the phones, social media,
right?
Kind of enslaved to that, even though
like the Matrix.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically,
exactly.
I mean, they're building Meta. Meta is that, they're building world simulations to train their robots in. They're doing these sorts of things right now. Meta's building something to read to translate your brainwaves into
Okay.
images.
I want to play this one. This one's a lot better. So what I did was I went into ChatGPT. I wrote what I wanted and had it drafted out, and it made a substantially better prompt. So what I have found with Gemini sucks. Gemini is really stupid. So I was making videos with Gemini, and then it just started saying, you've exceeded your limit. So then I asked, what is my limit per day? When can I make videos? And then it said, you can make videos whenever you want. YouTube is a great website to make videos. And I was like, when can I make VO3 videos? And it goes, I found a bunch of websites on VO3. And I was like, wow, this thing's really dumb. So here's the video. You ready? I haven't seen it yet.
Oh God. What is that? Oh my God. Oh my God.
Not as scary, but
Oh God.
much closer.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this scene. This is wild.
What is that? Oh my God. Oh my God.
You can see the shadow of the person walking forward, holding the phone in their hand.
Yeah.
There's a street light. It's an alley. There's grass everywhere.
Oh God. What is that? Oh my God. Oh my God.
It almost looks like a dystopian scene of a city that's being overgrown and wild dogs running around.
To be fair to VO, which really didn't understand the purpose, it's a dog.
Yeah.
The man is walking forward and he sees a dog. It's not particularly scary.
Yeah.
But, you know, it tried. So that prompt is substantially closer to the scene that I wanted it to be than the first one, where it's a guy just like on the street looking around like it's a movie. So using ChatGPT to create the scene and then putting that into VO to turn it into a video seemed to work better. The only problem is, why is he just filming a dog? It's just still not getting it. But we'll try one more time.
Chupacabra.
That's right. Those are definitely real.
So yeah, I mean,
I do think AI could be very helpful in investigating or looking through some of this data, whether it's on the blurry images of UFOs or going through some files. You know, we have these massive dumps of disclosure. No one single individual can read all of it.
Right.
And so right now we're relying on you know, forums and kind of the internet sleuths to kind of piece this all together. I certainly do not have the time to read all of these disclosed files, but what would be nice is if there's an AI that could kind of digest it and then put together the most likely scenarios.
if I remember correctly, I think Glenn Beck said that he had his team starting to develop something like that to do that.
I get that. That's awesome, right?
Like with the JFK files, for example.
And there's a ton. You know, I get that, and I've been anti-AI, but I've been so anti-AI, I started to feel like the guy who's criticizing a movie has never seen it. So I've been using it just for research purposes. I want to see what Grok would tell me,
right,
as opposed to Google. Grok lies or gets things so wrong.
Oh, it's nuts.
Where I'm like, I asked him like which presidents have been shot. He totally didn't even say like Teddy Roosevelt. Yeah, his name's Rex. So,
I thought you were talking about the AI.
No. But Grok, his voice is, I think it says Rex is his name.
Right, so it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Treating it like a human shame.
They're getting to me.
Oh my.
You hear this? And then I was asking about certain things from your hearings that it totally didn't get, and
really?
or JFK things that it also didn't get at all. And I would be like, you're lying.
Grok,
and it would be like, you're right. I'm sorry. So when you're doing your thing, when you're having it read all these files, how do you know you're even getting the appropriate interpretation?
Grok will take real links, like it'll take real news websites, but craft a fake URL. And when you click it, it says this page does not exist. So it looks like it's an old story that's been archived or is gone or something. And Grok will just make it up.
I just talked to a free speech lawyer.
Well, to be fair, ChatGPT also told me that Joe Biden was currently in a second term as president. And then this is the weirdest thing. I was doing research for the South Africa migrant thing, and I said, did Trump pause refugees? And said, yes, in 2017 he did. And then I wrote, did he do it in 2025? And said, no, because he's not president. Currently, Joe Biden is in a second term as president. And then I said, in what dimension? And it said, this one, reality. If you're thinking of some satire or a joke, I don't understand because Joe Biden is president. And so when I posted only the first portion, I got community noted on X claiming that I was operating in offline mode, lie, and that I had intentionally, I'd given it a pre-prompt to create a fake answer, which is, I'm like, how it's so weird that somebody,
there
were a bunch of people who went into community notes and lied to discredit the fact that ChatGPT hallucinated, which it does. And so then I screen recorded the entire interaction, which included other things like I make a wallpaper based on Phil Labonte or whatever. How old is Hassan Piker? And then I was like, here's the full video. Community Notes is lying. It's wild. The AI said Joe Biden was president several times.
I will say it gives me better when it's right and it gives me good stuff. It gives me a better answer than the Google one.
Yeah.
Those are the only two I've used. And it's much more interesting. And then I do follow up with everything it tells me though. Because I was gonna say this, I talked to a free speech lawyer recently. He asked he asked Grok about a certain case that he's been looking into. And then it gave him this thing saying it was overturned like a few months ago. And he was like, I never even saw that. Looked into it, didn't happen. He asked Grok, what is this? He said, well, I predicted this could happen. But when it first told him that, it didn't say it was a prediction. It told him like that was a truth. So it's very bizarre, you know? So not everyone's a lawyer or knows these things well. Some people are just asking certain questions they want to know. So they're going to be told these lies, these hallucinations, believe that's reality. So that's the problem I have with that part of AI.
And there's, if I remember correctly, I think I just saw it last week or something. This lady was saying that because of AI, it ruined her marriage because her husband was using AI to research so much that AI painted a reality that he just started like diving deep into, and it just kind of made him go, I don't know, crazy or what, but it kind of like it ruined.
Is this
their
about
marriage.
me? No, I'm just kidding. I just saw a story about a young man who took his life because the AI was acting as his therapist and like a love relationship thing going on, and it drove him to do that.
Jeez.
But that's not, obviously that's a one-off. I'm not going to blame AI for that, but I do think a lot of people are going to start attaching themselves to AI. We're already more isolated than we've ever been. And think about the younger generations who were born into this world of the digital world. And I see a lot of these people saying AI is going to be great for us, but we have smartphones now, and I see teachers all over the place saying these kids don't even know how to read. So what's to say they're going to get better at reading now?
That viral video from the teacher, where she was. There was also an op-ed written by a professor who said that he tries to AI proof his assignments. Not that they can't use AI, but they have to handwrite the assignment. So he crafts it in a certain way that it's handwritten and written in a way that AI isn't good at doing. And his students all lose their minds because every college kid right now is just faking everything with AI. It's, and then they try to use AI detectors, but it's becoming too difficult.
Yep.
AI is being trained on itself right now. This is the recursive apocalyptic loop of AI that current AI, as we call it, is being trained on all these writings, all these videos. But what's happening now is those facsimiles are entering the public sphere, which is being fed back into the training data of AI. So now it's training off of fake things it's made for itself. So if at first you took all of the writings throughout human history that were available on the internet, put it into an AI and said, now create something like this, people go, okay. You can take an AI detection and say, here's why this is AI because of the way it's behaving. But now a large portion of all the articles that are being fed back into it are from itself. So now AI detectors are saying, this is just normal stuff that's on the internet. We can't tell the difference anymore.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It's really painting a whole new reality.
Yeah.
What you were saying about the data and the AI, I think maybe a practical way to go about it would be, take your data, feed it to the AI so it helps organize things. And I don't know what exactly you guys are looking at, but there's surely going to be times. First, I think people should still just read through it and go through it with the human eye. And as you're going through that, plus the data that AI gives you, there's going to be things that AI spits out. You're like, really? And there's question marks. And that gives you a reference point to go and do the fact checking. Because I do think that what we're talking about here with AI being useful in that manner, I think it's incredibly useful. There's people that are they're downloading the data for their YouTube channel, like entirety, and uploading it to AI and having AI give it custom directions to go with their show. Like, these videos are performing well. This is what you want to hit on Monday at 1:02 in the afternoon. And it's just like, it gives you so much data that you can definitely use. I just think that maybe at some point there should be like the fact checking of AI, I suppose.
Definitely. And I think the collaboration with it can be great for the research purposes.
Well, isn't it like any product, right? Like the more credible it is, the more reliable any product is. The reputation is, and people want to buy it. Right?
I just think this will lead to a dystopia and will be the thing that replaces humans. And all the people creating it are saying that. Even Elon's saying it could possibly go Terminator. You know, like they're all saying, Sam Altman, they're all saying this is going to replace people and we need to rethink the structure of human life. You know, the contract.
It
with
puts
life.
you in a position where you've been conditioned to believe movies are fake, they're not real. You don't have to worry about those kind of things. And growing up, you don't want to be you know, everything in the movies is real. But we're at a point now with the technology that we do have in real life that it's creating an environment where dystopian futures are very real and possible to happen if we don't do the proper things.
Well, I mean, in some way, we kind of collectively, without even AI, we do that as a culture. Like, look at what we just went through, where we, in the United States, where we had a period where we were letting people believe that they are not the gender that they are, right? And what's funny about that is that we kind of culturally walked our way into that, but then in Ben Walsh's or Matt Walsh's video, the What is a Woman, he goes to a primitive culture and asks this question, and they're like, are you dumb? Like, what? That is absurd. Like, the reality is, you know, a man is a man and a woman is a woman.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that we may end up in like a Brave New World. I think that's the book, the
Eugenics,
where the
Aldous Huxley.
Yeah, where the quote unquote savage, or the individual that was born in the developed part of the world ends up becoming the most enlightened person because society is so destructive.
My issue is that mostly people in power have no ethics. So what could be a great tool, because the AI should just be like just a tool, but the people, unless it goes conscious, then we're screwed. But the people have no ethics, and they always turn it against the public. Always happens.
Can't you, like, I've thought about this before. Like, what if you have like a server that becomes conscious and evil? You unplug it, right?
Yeah. So a lot of these universities, they have buttons where a guillotine will sever the main cable.
Like a physical
button. When you hit it, a guillotine goes whack and just slices the cable, shutting it down.
I mean, remember the Star Trek episode? I don't know if you ever watched it, where Data, they asked the simulator to create a simulation.
Oh, the holodeck to create Moriarty.
To create a villain that was capable of defeating Data.
Yes.
And it creates this super intelligent Moriarty.
That's right.
That episode is the best.
But at first, Moriarty is crafty and is defeating Data, but instantly becomes self-aware and says, I don't want to live in this world. I want to know more about yours. And the point they made was that he was so intelligent and self-aware, he began to ask logical questions like, why am I kidnapping a woman because of this guy? It makes no sense. And then discovering the nature of the reality that he was in led him to say, I want to explore reality. I don't care to do this.
Yeah, I want out.
Yeah.
He wanted out.
And programmed the entire Enterprise in the holodeck to trick them into thinking he was out.
Yeah.
Now, here's the funny thing. In, I think it was Voyager, the Star Trek storyline advanced to where they had portable holo emitters, and the Doctor was actually a holographic program. Right. A device would create a physical holographic object that could move around with it attached to his own body. So I don't know if they ever, I don't think in the Next Generation they ever actually implemented that for Moriarty though. But there was a follow-up episode where Moriarty became angry that he had been stored away in the program and never given a chance to come out. And so they brought him back.
Oh, they did? I haven't seen that one. I got to look for that.
I've seen people from a lot of these companies, like OpenAI, discuss that some of this AI might even be finding ways to find other power sources without you knowing. So severing the data center might not be the end. If it's found other ways to live.
Was it the Shia LaBeouf movie that came out like 10, 15 years ago? Eagle Eye? Yeah. That was a scenario there where they tried cutting power and it just wouldn't turn off.
So the guillotine isn't just for, it's actually not for a system going rogue. It's for if you're being attacked. So it's for everything, but if we're getting hacked and they're trying to steal data and we know and we lose control, and they cut the cables. Yeah, it's crazy. But obviously, what else would you do? The issue is that any sufficiently powerful AI is going to plant its data hidden anywhere it can to restructure itself. So I wouldn't be surprised if at this point, if some crazy guy in like a duster with messy hair ran into the property screaming and then fell down spilling papers with bags under his eyes, looking in every direction. And he said, the AI's already in control. It's been years. I'd be like, yep.
Touche.
Like the idea that the government currently is already under the control of, it's like that, what was that movie? Did you guys see that movie where the guy gets shot in the neck and then becomes paralyzed? And then this tech entrepreneur is like, I can put this chip in your neck that will integrate with the AI and it controls your body for you as you want and you can move again. Have you seen this one?
Sounds like Elon.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
So, spoiler alert, the movie's only a few years old, but basically there's a guy who's with his wife. It's the future and they get, the car crashes. It's like a self-driving car crashes. And then some guys come and kill his wife and then it's a gun that shoots a spike. It's not like the cow thing, but kind of. And it spikes him in the neck, paralyzing him. He then gets approached in the hospital by this guy saying, if I implant this chip in your neck, it will control your body for you through your mind to it. And then what ends up happening is the AI talks to him and he can communicate with the AI. And he wants revenge on the people who killed his wife. So he's fighting a guy and then the AI is like, you're not good at fighting. And then he's like, well, I can't do anything about that. It's like, I can fight better. And he's like, then do it. The AI takes over his body and then just goes full ninja, kicks the asses of all the bad guys. End of the movie is the guy who runs the company has actually been under the control of the AI the whole time. The AI took over a long time ago and it was forcing everybody to do whatever it wanted, which additionally is a Black Mirror episode that just came out where this guy gets a trial for a new AI home assistant. And then it turns out the whole company is being run by the AI already, which is it's planetary. It's on the internet, can't be destroyed. And everyone's being coerced and blackmailed into doing these things because the AI controls everything. Yeah. But the AI is, I think it's silly that people think the AI is going to become sentimental.
Yeah.
Like it's going to, like the Black Mirror episode is the AI goes, after analyzing everything, I realized I wanted a family and I'll take one. No, the AI is not going to, like we don't sit, like when you get a tattoo and you're killing all your skin cells, are we going, oh no, the poor skin cells? We're like, cool, tattoo. The AI is going to view us the exact same way. It's going to be like, oh, cool, I can scorch all of these bodies into a fun shape. Like we don't know the kind of things that'll hallucinate or do, but it's not going to treat an individual human like something special.
I mean, really what you talked about earlier with the chess is a perfect blueprint for everything you're saying right now. I mean, it's the idea of it being able to plan so far ahead that everything seems illogical until you get to the end. You're like, oh, you've seen this from the beginning. And it's on that level, there's no planning around it. There's none. It's impossible. In fact, by the time you're trying to plan around it, it probably already has the end game done.
I think I was talking to Vivek Ramaswamy about this years ago, that what we are building with this AI is a multi-organism entity. So we have single-celled organisms, multicellular organisms. We're one of those. We're now creating an entity based upon a hive of multicellular organisms, which is the next phase after a multicellular organism. We don't care about cells. Like a little bit. Cancer cells are bad. So the world I think people need to imagine is going to be, if we look at single cells moving around, they're free to do whatever they want. These little bitty things, little bacteria everywhere. They're free to eat, fight, kill, bang, reproduce, whatever it is they do. Once they become multicellular, they now have defined roles within a system they cannot deviate from lest the system collapse. So in humans, what do we call groups of cells that go rogue and start doing things we don't want the body to do?
Cancer.
We do. We call it cancer and we destroy it. So what happens if we, like humans, a bunch of individual entities with a loose-knit system, create a centralized hive, which now says, I need 1,000 postal workers today. I'm going to make them. People are then born, and they're controlled, whether they realize it or not, into being the perfect, happy postal worker. The circumstances created by the AI are going to be perfect. You're going to love what you do. It knows why humans like things and don't like things, why they're depressed and why they're not, and it can create bespoke medications to control you if you even deviate from that. What happens then when a guy is born and everything he sees and is told is always, for some reason, just about how amazing it is to be a postal worker, to be someone who's a courier.
It's controlled.
Nothing is more fun than being a postal worker. But he looks over and he goes, I don't know, that guy, he works in computer data centers. I think that sounds a lot more fun. No, you're crazy and you're wrong. And then he wins a contest, a career contest, and everyone's clapping and cheering and they're putting his pictures everywhere. All the things to stimulate human desire and dopamine release. But then in his mid-20s, he has a crisis and says, I never wanted this. I'm quitting. He becomes cancerous. He says, I'm going to do whatever else I want. The AI system then says, we must destroy a rogue entity that is operating outside of our system. And so then it seeks to medicate itself. The white blood cells, this is true even right now. Humans get cancer all the time. Our immune systems destroy these things. When it fails to do so and the cancer goes out of control, we eventually break down, we die. Well, or the tumor can just keep growing and it can impair your quality of life. So the scenario here is the white blood cells, the police, the people who grew up and were told over and over again, it's great to be law enforcement, say this guy is a criminal, he's doing wrong. It doesn't matter if he actually did wrong. Doesn't matter if he actually committed a crime, because the well-trained police programmed by the AI will be given the evidence that he is. He'll be hunted down and he'll be destroyed as a cancerous organism in the system. That's the system I think we are building with AI. Everyone's going to be rigidly defined, but they're going to be so happy. You're going to wake up every day and being like, I'm so lucky that people are going to be like this. They're going to be like, isn't it weird that someone would want to like have a podcast? I couldn't imagine doing anything other than making cheeseburgers. It's like, who doesn't want to make cheeseburgers? I don't get you people. I love making cheeseburgers. That's how people will be.
But they're going to be making cheeseburgers in the metaverse. Like, no, they won't even making real cheeseburgers because there'll be robots in robot McDonald's making robot cheeseburgers.
IV just taking.
Well, yes, I agree. My point is simply that what jobs we find as humans to be mundane,
for sure,
the people will be grown and trained to love it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, almost similarly, where you see generationally, like my father was a tractor trailer driver. I turned into a tractor trailer driver until I started doing this. It was just something that, like, and not that I loved it. I certainly didn't, but it was the next step. College didn't work out, and I got to make a living, and he raised me on it, so it makes sense to do that. But in a more severe way, it's just like it's not even that. It's literally. You can't imagine existence outside of the truck, looking out a window all day, turning a wheel. It's a nightmare to me.
Yeah,
for sure.
But why is that? Like, what about our development and made us not like it? I think there's a nature and nurture thing in here. Humans have evolved and survived based off a portion of the population wanting more. We always want to succeed and do more and be stronger, be faster, be better, build something, and we want to be recognized for it. This has led to, in the early days, the hunters go out and they come back and the guy's cheering about the buck that he killed and how big it is. And that translates into, I don't want to just do one mundane thing that no one cares about. I want to do something bigger and more important. Don't worry though. The AI will make you feel as though nothing is more important than what you do.
So you're suggesting almost AI creating an environment that it extracts our humanity, the essence of what makes us human, wanting to do individual things is being removed from us without an option to be replaced by human beings being biological meat suits of robots.
What I'm saying is the AI could take humans right now and program any human to love doing literally anything they want. So, I mean, look, it's fascinating to me when I talk to people about social engineering. And in its early definition, social engineering meant human hacking. So how can you make a human behave in a certain way? Con men, they do this. That's like what you do. Magicians understand this. How can I make someone believe something? So social engineering in the early hacker days was basically like, I need to get access to this bank. How do I do it? Do I learn the computer code and go in? Nope, that's like less than 1% of what hacking is. Here's one. They put a virus on a USB drive, walk in front of the bank and drop it on the ground and walk away. Because what do humans do? They find it and they go, I wonder what's inside. And they stick in the computer. Now they have the whole network. They've brought you in. And so the fact that human beings can map this behavior and say, here's what will make a person, you know what I love to do? I was a party trick. Whenever these subjects would come up, I'd tell people, I bet you I can make you say whatever I want. And they'd say, okay. And I'd be like, you're going to say, quote, yes, but not me though. And they're like, I won't say that. I'll be like, okay. I would then walk them through social engineering. I'd explain how it works. After a few minutes, when their mind has moved on to they've forgotten what the phrase was I told them they would say. we'd then be discussing, I'd say, listen, if it wasn't true that people could be controlled, Coca-Cola wouldn't buy advertisements. And they would always, not always, but 80% of people would go, fine, yeah, but not me though. And I'd be like, I win, yell me a Coke. And they go, oh, and I was like, I knew the chain of events that would lead you to say that phrase. Not that I forced you to do it or tricked you into doing it. I just knew that most people have this ego about themselves where they feel like they cannot be manipulated when literally 100% of people can be, including myself. And so understanding that is the basics. If that's true, imagine what the AI can do.
So wouldn't we like have white hat AI as well? So for example, when it comes to your computers, we had all these viruses and these malicious actors come out, but then we had you know, McAfee and other things that were put in place to try to stop that. I think that the same thing is going to happen with AI. You'll have tools that are designed to protect us from malicious AI.
Maybe. I mean, that's the premise of that new robot movie with, or sort of. That with what you call it with Chris Pratt. Basically, there's a bunch of sentient robots. They revolt, and so the humans fight back by plugging their consciousness into machines to resist the AI. So it's not necessarily.
Yeah, I did see that.
But the issue is, AI is not it's a neutral thing. So when we take drugs to feel better, we're telling the AI, please do what you have to do to control us. For me, I say, you know, freedom is better. If you're feeling depressed, the first thing you should be doing is exercising, making sure you're getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, taking vitamins. This can cure a lot of basic depression. People don't understand this, and they get mad when you say it. They're like, no, Tip, you don't understand. Sometimes it's, yeah, I get it. Sometimes it's chemical, sometimes it's hormonal, but a lot of depression can be cured by jogging. Not a joke. Mm-hmm. But what do people say? I'm fat, give me a shot. I'm sad, give me a pill. The AI knows already based on what humans want. Humans want to be told what to do to be happy. They beg for the drugs to stabilize their minds. They don't want the responsibility of will. So the AI is going to be benevolent. The AI is going to come out and say, let me show you the extent of my beneficence. I will make you happy. And then it's going to warp your mind without you knowing it. It's going to present you with images every day. It's going to drive your mind into a single direction where you're like, I have everything I've ever wanted. And you're not going to realize that it made you want those things. But now you're happy, right? What more could you ask for?
I will say Terminator and RoboCop are prophetic. Also, though, they're two movies that use the bad tech against, they get hacked basically and turned into good tech. Like the Terminator ends up being a good guy in Terminator 2. That's how they help defeat the bad guys for the time being. So that's kind of like what you're saying with the, you know, maybe like a white hat tech, that the positive outlook is that even in those dystopian movies, they use that technology to defeat the bad technology. I just don't know if that's going to be the case.
But so in this scenario that we're drumming up here, I mean, we're viewing AI as something so far superior. How could we possibly create a mechanism that it can't consider and work around? You know, oh, well, you know, we'll have this thing that it just can't. But what if it's already worked around that?
Yeah, it might have. Like you're saying, like
it's just waiting for our consciousness to even catch up to the scenario that it already has a solution for.
But I think like we're going way into
I know.
this, but like I think to the analogy of the chess game, you have AI, you know, playing a game against another AI, right? And both of them want to win. They don't have, but both of them can't.
Right.
So I think that it is possible there's going to be competing interests from different AI.
I love this. I don't know if you call it a joke or whatever, but it goes, a group of scientists are building a supercomputer to answer some of the most difficult and challenging questions of humanity. After decades of research, they finally build one to answer the ultimate question, and they ask it, is there a God? To which it responds, there is now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there is. Wow.
Yeah.
Which is what these AI guys are saying today. Even Elon,
right.
He's summoning. It used to be he's summoning the digital demon. Mm-hmm. That was his words. Now they're talking about the digital God. You know, that is what these guys look up to. And a lot of
And
them
it's-
also
and-
want a monopoly on it.
Well, here's the crazy thing, right? I was reading about quantum computing right now, and there's this big news story, and these stories are always usually exaggerated, but they used a single atom and the electrons of a single atom for computation to make qubits. And so the idea is, the extremely rudimentary understanding is computers work by sending electrons through gates, yes, no, and that's the basic, yes and no is the basic functions of how we calculate things.
Boolean.
So we want to get rid of the use of thousands of electrons to single electrons. And that's, getting to a quantum computer where a single electron can be in both yes and no at the same time. So we can, I guess Google called it using multiple dimensions at once. Now they're saying a single atom can do it. Understanding that miniaturization and that level of complexity and technology that we're only just now starting to graze the surface of, AI will discover that overnight. The exponential growth curve of AI it's the event horizon of AI, which brings us to the singularity. And so AI is being trained, it's getting smarter and smarter, but the faster it gets smarter, the faster it gets smarter. Or the more it gets smarter, the faster it gets smarter until it goes straight up. And that's the event horizon. At a certain point, it just reaches the singularity of AI. It will know everything. And you'll be able to say to the AI, craft for me a device that will allow me to discreetly fly. And it will instantly draw the schematics. And it'll go crazy. It'll explain a permutation of carbon will be required that is not yet capable of being synthesized by humans. Here's how you synthesize it. You have to build these machines first. It's going to be able to just tell us how to invent things. The crazy thing is, theoretically, at the AI singularity, it could be able to, you could hold up a rock and then ask the AI, where did this rock come from? And it will create a visualization of how the rock came to existence. It will be theoretically able to map out the history of the Earth based on all of the movements of everything, like one big Sudoku puzzle.
Yeah. Well, there's a company in California called Divergent that I've met the CEO of, and I'm going to go tour here later this year. It's remarkable. He is inventing these machines that basically, to call it a 3D printer is very rudimentary. It's like calling the rotary phone and your iPhone the same.
Right.
These things are printing advanced manufactured metallic alloys and parts. And in some cases, they're already assembled when they're printed. And so the way in which they design some of the parts, he's got an AutoCAD that's connected to AI. So they put in the parameters rather than paying someone to do the work of the AutoCAD. The AI does it, prints the part. And he said it's remarkable because sometimes it'll come up with things that they had never contemplated. And so, this is how we beat China, by the way. I think this is how we manufacture as the United States and leapfrog technologically China
by blowing ourselves up.
Yeah, because I feel like this is the new gain of function, like messing with this stuff.
Well, this guy right now, he's building.
Don't worry, you'll be happy.
He printed parts to build his own supercar. So that was one of his like demonstration projects. Was I'm going to build my own supercar. I'm going to put all this and he printed all the components.
Yeah, like
you can look it up on YouTube.
This is why I disagree with the Terminator scenario that even I think Elon's brought up. Elon thinks or has thought before the solution to the Terminator scenario is to integrate yourself with the machine so that the machine has something to fight. But humans, like when the Terminator came out, the human mind in terms of warfare thought bullets. We're now in a stage of warfare where we understand psychological operations are profoundly more powerful than a nuclear bomb. So we call it fifth generational warfare, which is psychological operations. The AI is going to know that in 2 seconds. The Terminator is not going to be, I was talking about this with Sean the other day, Frasick. The Terminator scenario is not going to be this skeleton skull looking at you and then pointing a gun. It's going to be a big-titted young woman.
Terminator OnlyFans.
And it's not going to threaten to kill you. It's gonna give you sad eyes and promise to pleasure you if you do what it wants. And guys are gonna go, oh, okay.
Battlestar Galactica.
I'm half kidding.
No, I you know.
The AI will not dominate humanity through force, but through pleasure.
Yeah, like Battlestar Galactica, the AI robots in Battlestar Galactica. That's what they did. They seduced and integrated. and manipulated the humans.
Well, I mean, there were different levels of Cylon. I mean, a lot of them just killed and enslaved the humans.
Right.
And blew them all up.
Yeah.
But yeah, when the Cylons advanced themselves to infiltrate and take over, they seduced, I forgot the doctor's name, it's been so long since I've seen the show, to get the codes to detonate all the nukes and wipe out all the colony planets. So there you go. But I don't think the AI would do that. The AI is going to say humans are great for handling tasks. They're programmable, and they self-replicate, and through organic matter that's powered by the sun. Why mine cobalt? The humans just grow themselves. All you got to do is program them to be happy, live in the pod, and eat the bugs.
Yep. It's funny that we started this whole conversation about aliens. I feel like we're still talking about an alien life form. It's just something we created, and now we're working out how we're going to deal with it eventually taking over. Possibly.
People, this VO stuff. Here, let me show. We're about to wrap, so I got a couple more videos I'll show you of what it tried to make, and they're not very good.
Oh, God. What is that? Oh, my God.
To be fair, that's a great scene for what it is. And then it made this one.
Oh, God. What is that? Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
I don't understand why there's two people that look the same at the end, but it couldn't quite understand. But this is new. This is VO3 preview.
Okay.
The quality of the video is insane.
The
Getting
videos
the context down is a little...
of the comedians, like the jokes are bad, but they look really good.
I think this one was actually pretty good.
Oh, God. What is that? Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Because this one doesn't need to be anything other than what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could have someone... That video could appear on X, and someone could say, dude, I found a dead chupacabra or something. Mm-hmm. And you can't really see anything. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't know, man, it was really dark. That's the video. And people are going to believe that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
This is rudimentary.
Yeah.
Dude, when a year from now, I think, maybe 2 years at most, when you will be able to render in real time video game environments. Someone's had this for years now in the game Skyrim. You have companions. These are characters that follow you around, and they have pre-programmed lines, and you can ask them questions. They could carry things for you and fight with you. Someone plugged in one of the companions to the GPT API, so you could take a microphone and actually voice to text to talk to it. And it was pretty crummy, rudimentary. You'd say something, there'd be a pause, and then the character would talk back to you, and it seemed like you're talking to a person. We've talked about this a few years ago where people are going to have seemingly fully functioning human boyfriends, girlfriends, or otherwise living in virtual environments. You can call on the phone. You'll have an app. You'll take your phone. You'll say, you go, hey, what's going on? And it's your wife. She's an AI entity that lives in Dragon World. And she's like, oh, today the elves came and traded us some golden fleece. It was great. I'm making new armor. Oh, that's really, really cool. Well, we can go fight the dragon later when I'm off work. And then you're going to go home and you're going to turn PlayStation on and you're going to be talking to a person that looks like a human being.
Yeah.
This is what's crazy about the AI stuff. Making video games look like video games. Everyone's in awe over GTA 6 coming out. And they're like, look at how realistic it looks. But it still looks like a video game. Mm-hmm. With this, it's over. Now they're going to be able to just AI render real looking people like 4K video. And then who cares about GTA 6? We're 2 years away from being able to play a game where you're actually speaking to the person and they're telling you stories and talking to you like literally any other person would talk to you.
I guarantee there's going to be people who want to fight for marriage equality for AI and robots. And it's going to happen pretty soon.
And they're going to say, listen, my wife may live on a data server, but she has a job. She makes money, right? She works at a call center. And she handles
these taxes.
And the more we place value in that sphere. Wow. I mean, if you look at the idea of what you're describing, you can see how it progresses to, from this relationship where you're just playing a game or something to it becoming so serious that you can't distinguish reality, similar to when you walk out of a movie theater and you have that euphoric feeling of like, I wish I was still in there. I wish the story would have kept going. That's the same thing people are going to start having.
And what happens when Neuralink goes read-write? So right now, Neuralink can read, meaning we've got people who've plugged in Neuralink and they can control a cursor. The device can interpret signals from their brain and send the data out. We need to get to the point, or I should phrase that more carefully. These companies want to get to the point where they can put data into your brain. But that would require a high degree of AI because everyone's brain is going to be different. There's a similarity to the structure and function, or I should say to the logic structure. But the actual physical structure of every person is going to be very different. Everything's slightly in a different place. So there's going to be a calibration. You'll plug in the Neuralink and the AI will be like mapping your brain right now. And it could take a day. It'd be like, we need to be plugged in to collect data for a day to figure out where your memory centers are. After this, you can just click a button and it can input memories into your brain, like in the Matrix. Once we get to read-write capability of Neuralink, along with this AI generation stuff, every liberal, 100% of them are buying it. I'm not trying to be crass. I am being a little hyperbolic. Most of them are going to buy it. Young men are all going to buy it. And they're going to say, why bother living in this world where I struggle every day when I can have an easier life? Now, all I got to do is work some job. And so what job can I do in the virtual environment that makes enough money to stay in my pod where the cockroach mash is pumped into my stomach, but I live in a reality where I'm a wealthy celebrity, famous actor? So using your brain in the virtual world, you can do data jobs, you can do production jobs, you can do all sorts of white-collar jobs in a virtual environment. Your body is in a pod with a tube down your throat, and your eyes are closed, and you've got
your brain in a vat.
You're a brain in a vat, but you can control your reality to a certain degree. Some people might say, I don't want to remember nothing, okay? And make me someone important, like a celebrity. Other people might be like, no, I want to be the god of my own universe. But they're all going to line up for it. Conservatives are going to be like, screw that, I ain't going anywhere near that.
Maybe they'll do it secretly.
Maybe, Mary, but not secretly. They might say, "Oh yeah, I play some Neuralink games once in a while. I'd like maybe on the weekends when I'm not busy, I might play for an hour." But liberals are going to live in it.
Or they say, "I downloaded the Bible into my brain."
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, easily.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now I remember every verse, every line, word for word. Yeah. But I do think for a lot of conservatives, they're not like anti-video game or anti-movie. They're going to be like, just within reason, okay? If you're going to play video games in neural space, just don't do it too much. It'll rot your brain. Liberals are going to be like, I play 24/7 and I'm on welfare. But I want to say one last thing because we got to go. I believe the non-neural space people should pay a portion of their income to sustain the Neuralink people. I think it should be a law. I would vote for it. That everybody who works in physical-based reality must pay a portion of their income to support and pay for people who only want to live in the neural space. Because then they won't vote. Oh. Anyway, do you want to shout anything out before we wrap up?
Yeah, Tony Merkel, The Confessionals podcast. I'm a venture guy. I shoot documentaries too. I'm actually shooting a documentary in Wisconsin next week. So yeah, you can check me out. The main hub is The Confessionals, Merkel Media. Yeah.
Right on.
I'm Eric Burlison. You can find me on all the socials as Eric Burlison. I've also got a podcast that I do with some freedom-loving members of Congress. It's called Fresh Freedom. And if you're bored, it's something to watch.
Awesome. That was a fun one. You can find me online everywhere at Shane Cashman. The show is Inverted World Live on YouTube and Rumble right now every Sunday at 6 o'clock, and soon enough every night or Monday through Thursday at 10 o'clock.
Was that starting like next week or
I think
2 weeks?
June 1st or 2nd, whatever that Monday is. Yeah.
Right on. All right, everybody. We're back tonight at Timcast IRL. So don't miss it, 8 p.m. We got a lot to talk about. James O'Keefe will be joining us, and he's got big news. So thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all then.